today we are going to do something a little bit different from what we normally do. My name is Yoli and I'm going to talk to you about the process of being born and going through your life and the role that your parents actually ought to play in that according to Daoist ideas. I have to admit here, this is like a generic video in the sense that it doesn't really cherry pick, but it picks a lot of different kind of things from different periods to create an ID, because China is a huge country and it has many different kind of cultures and subcultures, and the habits from different cultures, they change from region to region. So you cannot really say like this is how it was. That is a very important part. But there are some general things which are quite general in Chinese culture as a red thread that we can talk about, and we can say, okay, these things are essential for this whole process. And this topic is something that is dear to my heart because I treat a lot of people with fertility problems and with talk a lot with clients about their children and how to raise them, and people call me for advice, or they send me messages on Facebook or Instagram or something like this with questions, and I try to answer them as good as possible, but for most people it is a problem that they don't see the birth of a child in the context of their whole life. And as a Daoist, everything you do is supposed to be done in the context of your whole life and the plan that you have for where to go with your life. And this is also what I try to emphasize in this video. In this video I try to explain to you the whole process from the idea of having babies until what you have to teach your children and what your children over the course of their life should come to learn to make sure that they have a good and happy life, and that they are going to send themselves off in the best way possible. You hear me well, it is not in the way how they're going to be sent off, but you have to send yourself off. That's the difference between what I usually call baseline people. Baseline people are people who have not really cultivated themselves. They have just followed along with the trends of their culture. They are born, they have happy or not happy lives, they gradually peter out and then they die. The whole point, of course, is that when you are parenting, you want to enlarge the chance for your babies to have a good life. You don't want to give them birth to torture them or to punish them or to have them miserable life. If you see that your life is not suitable, the first responsibility for a Daoist is not to become a parent. If you are living a life that is not suitable for having children in the sense that you can offer them a good life, then that is not a good thing. You can say, well, but it is their karma if it happens. No, as a Daoist, it's not their karma. The point of a Daoist is to overcome karma, so that you also have to protect your children against karma. Children are not supposed to be an accidental thing. They are supposed to be a purposeful thing. And yes, for some people it's very hard to get children, and for some people it's very easy to get children. Nonetheless, the fact that you want to have children and that you have something to offer to them is a very important thing. And you might think like, oh, now I'm talking bad to all the people who accidentally have children and actually have turned out to become very good parents. True, love is a very essential thing to give to your children, and to be thankful and to be grateful for the fact that they are there, but there is so much more that you can do. So what I'm trying to picture here for you is the Daoist idea of the ideal life. And Daoism has many connections with Confucianism, so people are studying Confucianism, they will recognize some aspects like, oh, but that's Confucian. And some say, oh, but that is folk medicine, or that is this, or that is that. But the Daoists, they play a role in that because they provide the knowledge base for giving a good life to your children. So, without any further ado, let's get on with it and let's go talk about this. And for this, we have to ask ourselves a few questions. To do an introduction about a topic like this is the easiest part of a topic like this. No doubt that some people after seeing this movie will start feeling guilty because it's their nature to feel like that very easily. They see the mistakes that they do and they recognize them and they see like, oh yeah, okay, I could have done this better and I have a bigger responsibility. Let me first make you come to peace, because every mistake that you make in life is correctable. Doesn't mean it is easy, but it is correctable. One of the reasons why something like the I Ching was preserved throughout history in Chinese culture was because it gives people a tool to find a way how to correct your mistakes. So in case you are in that situation, just sign up for our I Ching course, and with my personal guidance and support, I will help you find your way over time. So don't worry about that. This is just how it is. At the moment when you are starting to think about having a baby, the first thing you have to do is be aware of different stages of the babyhood. So let's first mention them. So you first have your preparation of your baby, and then you have the period where you have to make somebody pregnant or you have to become pregnant, and then the actions that you have to perform during pregnancy, then the giving birth actually, and then the way how that's being done, the period directly after birth, say the first 30 days until, well, eventually maybe a year or longer, how much care a baby actually needs, and usually after a year you're not ready. It's actually a lifelong task to be a parent. And then at the moment when you are raising them, the life goes into particular kind of periods, and these periods, they have particular kind of topics, and I'm going to show you what kind of things you can do more to make sure that your child is properly prepared for its future life. And at the moment when it is getting into its future life, you have to prepare them for the things it still has to do when it is growing up further, and when it becomes independent as an adult, how it has to prepare for aging, how it has to prepare for dying, and so on. Not difficult, right? So in every stage you can make mistakes. All actions that you perform have a slow result. It's like eating. You eat every day. If you every day eat very well, yeah, sure, you will have a good result. If you eat very well according to the wrong dogmas of what good food is, and then at that moment you will eventually, of course, have a bad result. But then if you change your habits, you can make a lot of corrections. Once you have found out that you are doing something wrong because you contracted some serious disease or something like this, you can say, oh, that's karma, or that is because of whatever kind of things. It's a higher power that wants to do something like that. But according to Daoism, that is not the case, unless when you are really deeply involved with gods and spirits and so on. In that case, it might be that they try to do something to you to get something done from you, or to take your power, and as a result of that become more important. You can see in every religion there are stories like that. Personally, as part of the pantheon that I am using for my personal cultivation, there is a Wenchang, and Wenchang is a god that is a scholar god, but also at the same time it is a god that has demonic origins, so to say. It was a scholar actually, but there are aspects in people's life in general where they originally come from, and these are different. Some come from the bottom, some come from the sky. And for your children it's going to be the same. So what kind of quality of child will you have? And for this you have to understand something about life and about the afterlife and the pre-life, of course, also. So we talk normally about the prenatal and the postnatal periods of pregnancy. And the prenatal period of pregnancy has two stages, namely the preparation for birth and the actual pregnancy and the birthing itself. At the moment when some child, your child, is born, then at that moment it enters into the postnatal world, and the rules in the postnatal and prenatal world are different. But that doesn't mean that you can't prepare. Your birthing process, brings the child from the underworld, so to say, into the birthing process, and depending on what are its capacities already, there are certain kind of capacities that are being inborn. As a parent you have 4 parents. As a child you have 4 parents. So these four parents are your father, your mother, the heaven, and the earth. So when you are born, whatever you call the essence of that, what is being born, that is the foundation of your personhood, and the good qualities come from heaven and earth, and the human qualities, they come from your father and your mother. That is a very important part. To be able to prepare yourself, both as a father and a mother, to have a proper child that has good quality and that will be willing to follow along on the pathway towards a good life, because that, you know, can be difficult. You could choose for a life of misery if you want. That is your personal choice. If you want to be unhappy, you choose for that because you maintain it. If you want to change, you want to be happy, you change your life. This is a very important part. So you have to do the little baby steps that will bring you eventually, after 10 or 20 years, into a better life. If I look at my own life and my own starting point and the steps that I see backwards that I have been taking, some conscious, some unconscious, that have gradually changed me, I never expected to make such great changes in my life, through which I can now sit here and talk to you about these essential things. This is probably the most spiritual video that I've ever made as a topic. But at the moment when you are preparing for giving birth or to become pregnant, make sure that you do first make your body healthy. Make sure that your mind is healthy, that you have a healthy mindset, that you have proper ethics, and that your life is in order. It doesn't mean that you have to be rich or anything like that, because the whole idea about wealth, that is just a nonsense thing. That's an attachment that makes people crazy, because you're never wealthy enough. You're also never poor enough. There's always something to learn, whether you're rich or whether you're poor. Daoists say that wealth is just as big a trap as is poverty. So to just be very average is good enough. So if you are not rich enough, fine. If you are well off, nice, share it with people who are less well off. Because at the moment when you share it with people who are less well off, then at that moment you actually accumulate good karma, so that the chances that your child is going to be a good child also being better. If you live a selfish life, then at that moment the children that you will attract, they will be attracted to your selfishness, and they will become a little bit like that. Because your children do become like you. They look like you, they take over your behaviors. You have to teach yourself behaviors that you would like to see in your children, and you have to be consistent with that. So at the moment when you are ready, you can say, okay, now I am the kind of character I would really like to be. This is what I can give to my children. This is the first preparation that you have to take. And that means that you have to offer them a good life. And it's not just you, but it is also your partner, of course. If you have a partner from a sperm bank or something like this, then of course you cannot know what is the origin of that. So even though that might be very helpful in emergencies and stuff like this, it is better to take then sperm from a very good friend who is willing to go through that process. That is my Daoist liberal opinion, because Daoists are very orthodox. You should only give birth within a family setting, very traditional. There's no difference between Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, Islam, and so on and so on. All these religions, they basically want the same. They want to secure this whole baby process. At the moment when you are getting pregnant, whether it's through IVF or whether it is through artificial insemination or through a natural process, you see I reverse that because, you know, there's all these kind of trends in the world. No matter what, the affection and the dedication to the process between you has to be right. And that means that there are particular kind of rituals and meditations you can do, and you can contact me about that, because it goes too far in this video to talk about it at the moment, when you use these artificial methods to make sure that your child is properly bound to you and that you have a good quality child also. So especially when you are choosing for an artificial means of fertilization, then you have better opportunity, probably more conscious opportunity to prepare. And that doesn't mean I want to advocate that, it just means that you have that opportunity. Also, you see with a lot of people who have to choose for that, they have to really consciously think about all these kind of things that they can do or have to do or to help themselves, because many people, they feel guilty at the moment when they have to choose for artificial means, because you're supposed to give natural birth. That is still something like that, but it will slowly grind away if that becomes more normal in society. Then at the moment when you are pregnant, both the male and the female become pregnant, they have to dedicate themselves to the process. So they both get also to the druggy thing when the woman expands and becomes like the Hulk and becomes bigger, and or becomes like an alien, the Alien movie, where the alien is moving through the belly and you can really see it moving and it wants to come out at a certain point. The whole thing that Confucianism, Buddhism and Daoism binds together is that the birth from a child is starting from the point where it becomes, where this was a ghost, where it becomes maybe demonic, and where without proper education, training and so on and so forth, it will become a bad child. So if you leave your child too much freedom, and that's ironic because I really like my freedoms, and I also think my children should have as much freedom as possible, but also they need to have very clear guidelines and boundaries through which they cannot pass particular kind of things, so that they can learn and appreciate why particular kind of behaviors are useful or not useful. At the moment when you are in that pregnancy, you want to make sure that you are not only morally properly prepared and behaviorally properly prepared, but you want to also start preparing yourself through performing creative things, like doing artisan work, or maybe painting, or maybe writing poetry or something like this. And you want to write about nature, history, culture and so on and so forth. You want to talk about civilized things. You don't want to be like an Anselm Kiefer who's creating all these huge paintings about horrible things. You don't want to raise your child with that kind of reality around you. Of course, when you live in a war area, you are going to be unavoidably offering that kind of world to your children when you are pregnant, whether it's accidental or on purpose, but also because of the way how you can perceive the world. So the suggestion in China is always being as a woman, when you are pregnant, don't look at horrible things. So don't go watch horror movies or action movies or anything like that. Just look at romantic movies with happy endings and so on, so that you give the child a feeling of belonging and comfort and safety and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing. What else you can do is to try to help this movie forward, but by liking it and also making a comment where you maybe give some of your experiences with this same situation. Maybe you are a Daoist, or maybe you have been advised by a Daoist before. Maybe you had to use Chinese medicine, because Chinese medicine, of course, very often is used in the form of acupuncture and massage to turn the baby also, or to relax the woman during pregnancy so that the delivery can take place. Acupuncture very often used also to increase fertility, and the massage also can be used to increase fertility. There are all kind of other skills that can be used as such. A lot of things in the biology of a human being can be corrected because of acupuncture and massage and exercise, so that you can prepare better for your child. So make sure you react if you know people who are going to be pregnant, or they want to be pregnant, or they are pregnant. You have to understand that every mistake that people make can be corrected. I said that at the beginning of the movie also, so that's very important. So to learn something about the birthing process and the pregnancy and the preparation for pregnancy is useful for everybody. Even if you don't agree with me, it is still good to think about it. So share this video with other people. That will really help the video. Join our channel, so become a member. I am now about a quarter of the way of where I want to be for the coming year. I'm a very small channel, and I do know people like more horrible things, and they would like me to lie and to fantasize, to join very much, because then spectacle, of course, sells. All the science shows that it sells. I don't want to do that. I just want to try to tell you the things how they are. I don't try to overdo all kind of things, but I do need your help for that. And I remember some of my teacher friends from the past, they told me that eventually I would end up begging for people for their help, they would give me donations voluntarily to help you with that process. Join my Patreon for a few euros or dollars a month. You can help me produce these kind of videos. If you want to join also in the learning programs, just contact me for what you want, or sign up directly for the different courses. It's not a big problem. When you are, you can do that through our Daoland Everywhere .org pages, of course. And for the rest, what is very important is that you take care to take responsibility for your actions. My advice would be to do not try to get pregnant just because you have a desire. That is not enough, because desire usually creates undesirable results. When you know you're ready to have a child, then at that moment it is high time to first check yourself, be fair with yourself, right? So next week we're going to do the second part, and at the moment when we go to the second part, we're going to talk about the youth of a child. What do you do as a parent with your child in the education process? When does it start? How does it start? What skills do you need? What skills will be helpful? And what is your relationship with governments? Because that can be quite disruptive too. So thank you very much for your attention, and we are going to talk further in the next video about this topic. And sign up and make sure that you find me.